What's up? What's up?
Which one?
The comic.
All right.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Hey guys, you're watching the Best Damn Comic Show, episode 41, and today we're going to be doing our picks of the week, of course. We're going to be talking Powers of X #1, and we're going to do a little news and notes, but the topic of the day is, what's a better investment, a comic book or an action figure?
Well, here, you hold the toy because you play with toys. I like my comics.
We're going to give you 5 reasons why we think a comic is a better investment than an action figure. And the first one is price point.
$25. Marvel Legends, Target, $19.99 plus tax. For the same price, I can buy 4 comics. You get a discount from most guys. I can fit 5 comics for $20. And that's just Marvel Legends.
Yeah.
You get into the higher stuff, you get into 112, which are like Marvel Legends on crack, $60, $70, $80 a pop. Great looking figures.
Right, or the 1/6 figures, your hot toys, your
hot toys,
sideshows.
$200, $300, $400 a pop. If I'm gonna spend $500,
I mean, you could invest it into an older comic as well,
comic,
stuff like that. The second point is appreciation, and by appreciation I mean value. The issue with the figures is, let's say because it's in the new Endgame outfit, this figure jumps off the racks, everybody wants it.
The first 10 minutes.
They become hard to find and it goes up to maybe $40, $50, right? The second they decide to re-release this figure again, the value plummets.
Especially with movie-oriented figures. Once the movie's done, interest winds down,
right.
Value drops.
But also just the figures themselves. An example of this is Toy Biz used to have the Marvel Legends line. Their figures were the hot figures. Everybody wanted them. They went up in value.
Yeah, a lot of articulation. Yeah, I mean, they were crazy.
But Hasbro got the license and started re-releasing these figures with new, better molds. And we see now immediately that a lot of the figures have dropped in value. Now you can't give them away. Quite a few of them. Action figures get re-released. Value usually drops. Same can't be said about comic books.
No, I mean, comics. Brand new comic, limited print run. Something happens, gone the same day. Value shoots up the wall,
And it's because they change stuff about them too. They might put the second print has a different cover sometimes,
right.
Or they change the color scheme of the same color.
But the meat of it is the story. Something happens in the story, and the value goes up, and it doesn't come down.
Right.
That's the thing. I mean, there's a little bit of drop depending what it is that drives the book up to begin. Whether it's a first appearance, a movie, pickup, whatever. But it doesn't drop that much, and it's keeps going up. The minute it happens, just gets higher and higher and higher.
The action figures really depends. Some of the vintage lines may go up.
Back in the 70s, 80s, we played with these toys.
People weren't keeping them in the box.
There's a lot less toys mint on card from that era, so that's what drives the price on those. So people look at it like, well, but nowadays everybody keeps their toy in a box. So the value, I mean, it's not that rare to find a mint on card recent action figure versus some vintage toy, whether it's He-Man, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, or what have you.
Number 3 is storage. These things take up a lot of space.
Especially if you keep them in the box.
Especially if you keep them in the box. I could put 7 of these in a short box. I could put, 150, 200 comics,
200 comics
in a short box.
With the bag and board in a short box.
So it take up a lot of room, and you get to a certain point where you don't know where to put this, especially because you have people who are so anal about the condition of the box itself, which is another topic for another day. But trying to keep these things in pristine condition while having enough space is it's going to cost you. And that leads me to reason number 4. If you're selling these, this is an investment topic, shipping. Get away with shipping one of these at the most for $7.
Right.
One issue. This thing right here, because of the packaging issue, because of the size, because of the weight,
the weight's not so much as the size, and again, the packaging issue, because you gotta send it.
This by itself probably weighs like half a pound, but once you put everything on it to make sure that it's bulletproof, all of a sudden is when you start costing yourself money shipping-wise. So you're cutting into your profit. For me, it's time-consuming and expensive, and most of the time, it's just not worth the return that you get on the initial investment.
Especially if you don't sell it right away.
Especially if you don't sell it right away while the figure is hot. And number 5, entertainment value.
Entertainment. I mean, when I was a kid, I still have my toys, my Joes, vintage. Yeah, I play with them. Now how many guys actually play with? Yeah, some, especially the guys that keep them in the box. You line them up, they look cool, but that's all they do. There's guys that create, they open them, they create scenes and stuff.
Like dioramas.
But that's just a one-time, idea. I mean, how many times are you gonna go back and go, there the way I come, blah, blah. No, with the comic, I can read this the minute I unpack the box in the morning. I'll read. I'm like, oh man, this is so good. I'll read it after I'm done setting up the table because it was so good. I can read it later in the day. I can read it a week later. You know, I can read it after I build the story arc and go, you know what I mean? I think comic books have a higher entertainment value than a toy does, especially at our age.
Right. And this goes back to investment as well, because there are people who will buy a Silver Age book or a Golden Age book and still open it and
read it.
And read it and go through it because they want to
read
have
it.
that feeling
Yeah.
of, hey, I own this book now, I can read it whenever I want. This is so cool. It takes you back somewhere.
Right.
You know, whereas the toy, you kind of, they're statues basically at this point.
Yeah.
They're posable statues when you get to a certain, unfortunately, you know, we get older, we kind of lose our imagination for
at 50-year-old, you sit there, you play with your toy, and your wife comes in like, what the hell are you doing, boy?
At the end of the day, it's always your wife's fault. Let's talk some Powers of X.
Let's do that.
All right, guys, so we're going to talk about Powers of X #1. And before we get started, I just want to give a spoiler alert. If you don't want to watch this, if you don't want the book to get spoiled for you, skip ahead to the time code that's up on the screen. But let's get started. This book versus the House of X, what's the main difference?
Well, the main difference is this book takes place 100 years. They give you a timeline, year 0, year 10, year 100, and year 1000. So what I'm getting from reading the first 2 issues is there's a lot of continuity. There's Claremont continuity, there's Morrison continuity. What seems to be missing is the last 8 years worth of crap.
Right. It's kind of a way to skirt around that stuff.
Right. And you're setting up a future. I mean, we've had plenty of futures. We had Cable's future. That was an alternate timeline. Then you have Bishop's future where, you know, mutant camps. So every possible future ends up with the mutants being in the doghouse.
Yeah.
I mean, here you have a situation where there's a growth of mutants again. They get their own land, not Genosha, but Krakoa. Here, 100 years in the future, you get persecuted again. So whether it's Sinister's doing, the humans...
And that's actually a key element. We learned that Mr. Sinister is behind the creation of these mutants. It looks like it says that there's a pit that they're using Mars,
right,
and then they send them from Mars to Krakoa. So Sinister is involved in this somehow or another. And we get to a point where we find out that Nimrod is actually behind some of this as well. They create mutants to hunt down other mutants.
When I picked up X-Men back in the day, it was issue 196 and introduced the Hellions. But at the same time, I wish you had the Hounds were introduced, which were mutant hunting. Ahab was using mutants to hunt other mutants. So it's almost the same plot, but a new angle.
Right.
So they're not necessarily feeding the same history. No, they're giving it to you, but they're giving you yet another possible timeline, something that's not so much redundant, which I love. I'm looking forward to see what we can explore.
Well, it's also history repeats itself, you know.
And that's that syndrome, right?
Theme, yeah.
You know, but you get a new character out of it. You get a bunch of new characters, a new avenue of telling stories without regurgitating the same characters over and over again. You know, it gives you as a writer possibility to create something new, based on an old idea.
Now, warning, you really got to pay attention when you read this book, and especially to the explanations in between the panels.
To the panels,
because there's a lot of information in there you're gonna miss if you don't pick up. Don't rush through this book. Do yourself a favor. You're doing yourself a disservice.
Unlike Watchmen, where a lot of, I mean, I personally never read the Watchmen, and a lot of people skip the pirate story, but supposedly you're supposed to read the pirate story.
Yeah.
This is, you gotta read this because it gives you, it's intertwined, it's part, it'll give you, you'll be like, oh. So it sets you up. So definitely read everything.
Right. Now, how do you feel about this compared to last week, House of X #1?
I mean, because it's...
For me, this was a little more dense, a little more
It is, because it jumps.
Yeah.
It jumps 100 years. They give you like yet another possible future. Same fucked up future that the mutants have. No matter what they try to just stay away from everything, just let me be someone other, they end up screwed. So it is, because he's got to create that.
Right.
So it is going to be more dense, but I think as the story progresses, it's Hickman, it's going to make sense.
Right.
There's no way in fucking hell this book's not going to make fucking sense by the time we're done with it. It's going to be amazing.
Well, next week we're going to continue with House of X number two.
And keep in mind, #1 came out. They already solicited a second print for this book.
It was chock full of first appearances.
No, but the book itself, Marvel solicited a second print, so it sold out. Number 2 shipping next week, sold out. I've already been solicited for a second print on number 2 last week. So the book's not even out, the book's sold out. So, and I'm hearing from a lot of guys. I get a lot of phone calls, nobody has them. So underordered, could be. So yeah, keep an eye on these books.
Well, let's talk some news and notes.
Let's do.
I want to start off the segment a little bit darker. You sent me an article talking about DC and the deal they have with AT&T since they purchased Time Warner, and it doesn't look good at all.
So going back to, about a month ago, Rob Liefeld on Instagram and said, he was, the DC is done. He was right. Rob's always been outspoken, so he knew something. And again, the writing's on the wall. AT&T is all up in their business. 10, 15, 20 years ago, I'm sure everything was a little bit better up in the company, with Warner Brothers, with the way they were looking at movies and everything. You had Batman, they were making money, all this stuff. Paul Levitz's job as a editor-in-chief was simple. He was given a budget and told, try not to lose more than $2 million. No flash, they just had to sell comics and keep their characters in play. He gets turned over, a new publisher comes in. Changes came, and the wrong changes came because it had brought attention from top because the numbers weren't there.
Yeah.
You're doing all this flash, this, but why are you doing it?
What the most concerning thing about it was that, according to the article, the older collections, like reprints of stuff, were making more money than the new books.
Because the new books, you had books like Curse of the Brimstone, Silencer. You were doing books that nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Who are you marketing these to? Right. Are you trying to market these as your brand, your legacy on the DC universe?
And it's funny because in the same article it says that Marvel has tried to keep marketing to like the mid-teen young adults still, and DC is failing with that demographic.
It is. And I'm not writing for the Forbes magazines for anybody else. I'm just a guy in a comic book store with 30 years of experience. I don't have a business degree. I'm not stupid, but I don't have a business degree. I pay attention. Yeah. What I've been telling you, I have no kids in my store. The last time I had kids in my store was mid-90s. Marvel, ever since Marvel got bought by Disney, I've said it and I stand by it, I got job security. Why? Because Disney caters to an age group of 5 to 17. Mm-hmm. And that's what they've been doing. That's what they're targeting, the teen books. And they're giving me good stories. As a grown-up, as a fan of this product, I'm enjoying the stuff. The kids, I got 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 7-year-olds, elders coming in and asking for War of the Realms. They're asking for Venom. They're asking for Avengers, for that. And it's products that we both enjoy.
Right.
DC doesn't have anything like that. They're catering, and I've said it, Marvel/Disney caters to the brand. They cater to their superheroes, to their characters, to their legacy. They're not catering to individual achievement as a writer.
Yeah.
DC, on the other hand, it's all about me. It's all about my individual growth. No. You're going to leave, Superman's still going to be here. So let Superman grow you. Mm-hmm. But you're doing stories, I'm reading these action, Bendis Superman action. There's no Superman in those books. And by the way, I hear he might not be coming back after his contract is gone.
And it's a bit self-indulgent, I guess. That's the issue. Is like a lot of these writers they're
worried about themselves rather than making me buy the book.
Trying to win an Eisner instead of.
I don't want to win. What the hell? Go write something else if you want to win an Eisner.
Yeah. The one thing that DC has going for them is branding, because everybody knows Superman's symbol. Everybody knows Batman's symbol. Green Lantern, the Flash.
80 years of product. And that's my argument.
They're the reason why this thing exists.
Why am I buying a book that says Curse of the Brimstone or Silencer or anything when your brand is Superman Bat? You can go on top of the fucking Himalayas and you flash a Batman signal and people are going to be like, Batman!
Yeah.
They're not going to be Curse of Brimstone. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm looking at the lineup for the September releases. I'm looking at the new catalog, and it's like, what are you guys selling?
Right.
I'm passionate. I love what I do, guys. Please understand, I'm not a Marvel fan. I'm not a DC fan. I love comics, and it baffles me to see the inaptitude of a publisher not to realize what you're missing on. What are you here to do? You know, it sucks.
Well, I think the one thing we can draw from this is don't be surprised if you see less and less DC titles coming around. And the ones that do come out are going to be focused around the tentpole characters and not so much new stuff. So beware of that.
Don't be surprised if you see editorial changes, like personnel changes.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just yeah. Marvel. Thank God for Marvel. Oh, put another 20 titles out a week. I don't care, because you know what? Every one of those books is sold out before it even hits my table. Instant branding, like instant sales.
Right. And speaking of Marvel, Taika Waititi was announced to be directing Thor #4. And can you believe there are people out there who are not happy about his portrayal of Thor in that film?
That's a fucking great movie.
It's an awesome movie. It's like
it's
in my top 5.
I have no idea what people are bitching about.
I think the biggest, what I've read from people is that they don't like the comedic Thor, and that's like, this is the best iteration
What are you
of
talking?
Thor.
I mean, I don't think he's comedic. I think he's just dumb. He's a god.
Right.
He just acts.
Yeah.
He just does things. I mean, look at how he was in Endgame.
Right.
Tika didn't direct Endgame.
Well,
the Russos pulled the same personality.
It's a fleshed out Thor that we haven't seen before. And I think if you read the comics, Thor's always been kind of dumb. It's just never been addressed, and this is like, it's thrown out there for you.
He's a god. He doesn't think.
Yeah, but it's awesome. I love that movie like so much. It's one of the few that I keep rewatching.
Everybody has complained about Thor, with Jane Foster. It's like, dude, she's not Thor. She's just temporary. She's an opportunity to create a new brand for the movies, take a break from Thor, and here's a female Thor, Jane Foster. It's not like she's a brand new character. She's been around the Marvel MCU. Yeah. She's a supporting character. She's a love interest. There is a what if issue from the 70s where what if Jane Foster had the power of Thor, just like Storm had the power of Thor.
I mean, I have no issue with that, but the reason why I bring it up though is because Taika Waititi has taken it on himself to troll people on Twitter, and it's
more power to him.
Some of this stuff is hilarious that he's coming with. We'll throw some of the screenshots.
Man, people need to relax. It's gonna be a good movie.
Yeah.
Look at it this way. So I see the parallel between the comics and the movies. So I look at Thor. In Thor, he becomes unworthy. Jane picks up the hammer. The only way for her to save Asgard is to send Mjolnir into the sun with Mangog. Mjolnir gets destroyed. You have Thor that goes through shitload of hammers. There's no other hammer like Mjolnir because it was uniquely created. It was a maelstrom between fire, the goddess of space, whatever. So it's a sentient being, pretty much. What happens at the end of War of Hammer, which I predicted? I said he's gonna get Mjolnir back, and he goes through the whole process just like Odin created Mjolnir. He does it in the movies. Here you have him slinging the hammer. He loses the hammer to Hela. Hela destroys it. So where in the comic book, Jane loses Mjolnir, he loses the Mjolnir in the comic books. In the movie, he goes through Endgame and, trying to find the hammer. He doesn't, he just gets the axe.
Yeah.
Who? I mean, I saw the picture of them announcing Jane, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster. She's holding Mjolnir.
Right.
So she's gonna, somewhere or another, she's gonna put Mjolnir back together, which I think it's great. Because by the end of that, will she come back for a 5th Thor? Probably not.
Right.
But Chris Hemsworth will say he'll be Thor as long as Marvel wants him to play Thor.
Absolutely.
He doesn't have a hammer right now. Guess what? After Thor 4, he'll get the hammer back.
Thor Ragnarok established Thor as a great character in the MCU.
Right.
You can make the argument that he was kind of a secondary character in the Avengers films. His solo films before Thor Ragnarok were kind of...
They're enjoyable.
But they were received the same way the other films were.
It's hard to make a God movie,
but
bro.
Thor Ragnarok put him at another level. It put him on a different he's up there.
No.
That's why he's a part of the final battle versus Thanos, because he's now one of the core 3.
Yeah.
And if you read the comics, you know that Thor, Hank Pym's the only one missing from the Avengers.
Yeah.
They created
it was Cap, Thor, Iron Man, and the Hulk.
Right. By the time this airs, Hobbs and Shaw will have come out already, and critics came out with their rankings of all the Fast and the Furious films. But instead of looking at that, I want to get, since you're the big Fast and the Furious guy here, I want to get your rankings. Give me, what are your top 5 films in the franchise?
I like all of them, but my favorite one is number 5.
Okay.
The Safe Heist. man, I want to drive down the street lugging a fucking safe, bro. That, I keep watching that scene over. I mean, the whole movie, just from the opening scene. And one of my friends, Fred Raskin, he's an editor, he edited on that movie, and they said that they got a bus from the sheriff's department, a junk bus, so they only had one take on that opening scene where the bus rolls, and they pulled that scene in one take. That right there, I'm like, knowing what it took, I'm like, just the whole opening scene. You watch four ends with the bus going because he's going to jail. 5 opens up, you're just like mesmerized by the whole poof. Then I love 7. I mean, 7 always makes me cry because that's the the Paul Walker last movie, and that whole thing is just like, it's a tearjerker for me on 7.
Give me your top 5.
5, 7, 8, 6, and 4.
So you're actually not that different.
I'm not.
You have them ordered a little differently, but they're still pretty much the same ones.
But still, I don't take their shit for nothing. None of them are bad. Number Tokyo Drift's the worst one. I just make a list just for that one by itself.
All right, that's enough Fast and the Furious talk. Let's get some picks of the weekend.
Slow it down.
Yeah.
Next week starts Absolute Carnage, and it's going to be a carnage, no pun intended, but I'm looking forward to that. We got Agents of Atlas #1 by Greg Pak coming out. Might be a first appearance of a new character. You never know with Marvel books nowadays, but I'm looking forward to that. Chip Zdarsky on Daredevil. That book's been insane, and #9 comes out next week, and we have Matt that's been trying not to be Daredevil, and then you got the cop that's chasing him. But now there's a new Daredevil on the playing field, and it's not Matt. So is that a first appearance?
Could be, huh?
Could be. We got Punisher 14, Rosenberg. He's off of X-Men, but Punisher's killing it, and the war, with Zemo comes to New York. Kingpin's involved. We'll see what's gonna happen with that.
Always a good time.
Always a good time. Savage Avengers, man. I gotta say, I love Savage Avengers. It's gonna be sad to see Deodato leave because he's doing his own book over at Dark Horse. But I'm gonna take it for now. But it's a great story. Conan, Wolverine, Venom, Punisher, Elektra, Dr. Voodoo. It's phenomenal.
Now let me ask you: has Conan made it into 616 yet?
Yeah, he is. He's in 616. Savage Avengers. Avengers: No Road Home was his introduction in 616, and Avengers: Savage Avengers. He's a Avenger.
Okay.
A Savage Avenger, but he's an Avenger.
Okay.
Immortal Hulk 22. That book, next issue looks insanely phenomenal.
Is this, are we gonna learn about that being that Banner meets in that?
I don't know, but I know Rick's back. You got basically the Hulk family or the monster family. You got Rick, Betty, and Bruce going up the Shadow Base, which, as of last issue, looks like what's his name, General 14 becomes the Abomination.
Right.
Monsters that seem to be out of control against humans that are monsters. I mean, this would be such a good horror superhero movie. I would love to see this Marvel do this. And my pick of the week, and this was a tough given whatever else I've mentioned, it's House of X #2. I really love #1. Powers of X #1 was great. I love what Hickman is doing, what he's setting up. It's nothing new. It feels new, but it's familiar. We've read this.
Which is smart.
Which is brilliant because it gives us, you're like, I'm home.
Right.
So that's my, it's gonna be my go-to next week.
As for variants this week, I got 4 picks for you. 2 DC ones, actually. Deceased #4, there's a Matina variant. I picked this one because #1, it's a beautiful Matina cover. And on top of that, it's got the Joker. I feel like zombified Joker is something, it's a long-term play because of the 2 elements.
Right.
And Joker covers always seem to do good in the future. Then I got Deathstroke #46. I just really like this cover by Scan. Deathstroke 46, I have no idea what's going on. I know his daughter took over the mantle for Death.
But that variant looks good.
But the variant looks beautiful.
Who's Scan?
I have no idea. And it's one of these artists, these young artists that are coming out that you haven't heard of. This is a book you hold on to as well because people start chasing those older variants.
Their first quote-unquote appearance.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And then we got Absolute Carnage #1. I got an Art Germ variant. Beautiful, beautiful Art Germ work. I kind of like it when he doesn't go super anime on his covers because it kind of shows he's got range. Exactly. And this I mean, it's amazing. And then you got a Delato cover as well. That it's got the whatever the symbol is. So that's the actual Carnage. Really, really nice covers. To be honest with you, there's 75 million covers for Absolute Carnage #1, and almost all of them are great looking.
I know.
It was
keep in mind, they're $7.99 a pop.
Yeah,
so
it's a thick book.
It's gonna be a pricey week next week, but
I want to talk about a book that we missed last week. Marvel Comics presents #7, the 1 in 25 Raza variant. Underordered book. People knowing that this is going to be the first full appearance of this character still seems like they didn't really order the book as much, because you go by eBay prices.
What's that going for?
It's going between $60 and $100 for this cover.
I mean, it's a really cool cover.
It is. It's a real nice cover.
Simple.
It's simple. It's got Wolverine on the cover. You see the picture
superimposed on, I guess, Art Adams' image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those books. Like, I should have known better.
There's just too much, though.
It's just way too much.
Like, what do you pick? I mean, it's tough.
And that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for watching. You know the drill. Smash that like button. Leave comments. Let us know what you think. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Ring the bell if you are. Cat, take us away.
Read comic books. I can't emphasize on that any more than I do already, but it's important that you guys pick up your books every week. A lot of good stuff. Support print. That way it doesn't go away.
Put down the action figure. Buy 4 comics instead.
Exactly.